Here is my new wood engraving project. In this video I will show the entire process and share nuances that are usually not shown. Hello, you are on the HryArt channel. To start, I prepare the photo for engraving on a laser machine. Then I will show the engraving process itself, how the drawing literally appears on the wood. I use birch plywood 3.2 mm thick of the first grade. Therefore, only on quality material does the engraving come out clear and even, in my opinion. I think you will agree with me. In the video, it may seem like this is a very fast stage, but actually it is not. This is A3 size 420x297. Such a picture is engraved for about 3 hours, maybe a little more. I mean the pure engraving time, but what you see now is the magic of editing. Therefore, the process looks much faster. If you don't know that this is a 2D format, visually it might seem as if a sculpture is gradually being carved out of a piece of wood. It looks quite good. Quite interesting. It really looks interesting. I like this effect. I hope you also enjoy watching and get pleasure from the process. After finishing the engraving, I moved to the mechanical workshop. It is here that the frames for this drawing are made. At first glance it seems that there is not much to do here, just a frame, a square done, but it's not that simple. This stage takes much more time than you might imagine. I start the work with a circular saw. Cutting the bar into blanks with a small rough allowance for further precise processing. First, I set up the circular saw. Material for these frames is obtained with initial dimensions of 27 mm and a width of 38 mm. Such a margin is needed to ultimately achieve the exact size of 25x36 mm. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to my channel and turn on the bell so you don't miss new videos. Write comments, it is also very important and pleasant. Express your opinion, your ideas, comment and support the development of my channel. This support motivates me to move forward and create even more content. Before starting work, I prepare material immediately for 3 frames. The size of one frame should be approximately 480 x 360. So for one frame, I need to have about 2 linear meters of material blanks. This means that for 3 frames I need about 6 linear meters of blanks. But in general, I need to have 7, maybe a little more material so that I can choose the best material and discard any defects that will be on this material. After this step, I move on to the thickness planer. First, I take the blank, then run it through the machine and check the result. If the size is not what I need, I go through it again and get a new option that matches my requirements. Then, when I am sure that the machine is calibrated, I can proceed and pass all other blanks through it to get the final version. I sorted all the boards by texture and now I am starting to process them on the thickness planer. Pine, by the way, is a very beautiful wood. It has a rich and interesting texture. Each board looks unique. Write in the comments which material you like and why. Right now I am working with several planks at once because I need to remove about 1 mm of thickness. That is not much at all. So I can run several planks at the same time, placing them in a row. This way the work goes much faster, more efficiently, and I save time on processing. When working in a mechanical workshop, you always need to consider a few important points: noise and dust. Therefore, it is essential to use the necessary protective headphones, a respirator, and turn on the exhaust. This is very important not only for comfortable work but also for health. So let's not forget about safety as well. For example, when I work on the circular saw, you always need to think. It is important to look at the material, rotate it, choose the better side to minimize waste and get the maximum yield of the finished material. But working on the thickness planer is quite different, more monotonous. Here you don't need to constantly make decisions. The main thing is to correctly adjust and calibrate the height of the workpiece, place them in the correct position, and then the process just goes smoothly and steadily. At this stage, accuracy is crucial. I need to cut the blanks to the final size for the frames. It is very important here to precisely cut at a 45-degree angle. I didn't succeed the first time. There was a slight inaccuracy. As a result, the frame did not form a perfect 90-degree angle. Because of this, I had to redo the work several times. But in the end, I got a nice and accurate result. I cut all the blanks to the required size and prepared them for the next stage. Then I returned to the circular saw. Here I need to set it up correctly and make a groove into which the frames will later fit. And into the frame itself, the picture. This process consists of 2 stages. First, I make a cut to the depth, then remove material by thickness. In the end, a neat and even groove is formed. After this stage, I proceed to glue the blanks and form the frame itself. When the frame is glued, I take a handheld router and chamfer both sides, the outer and the inner sides of the frame. I use a standard 45-degree router bit, set it by depth, and run the frame around the perimeter. This router bit has a bearing that slides along the wood. Thanks to this, a nice, aesthetic, and neat profile is automatically created. The next stage of my work is when the profile is completely finished. I carefully check if everything is even, neat, and if there are no similar flaws. After that, I take a regular handheld sander. I sand the entire surface as well as the profile of this frame. When sanding is finished, I move on to the next stage, varnishing. The purpose of this stage is simply to cover the wood with a protective varnish and emphasize the texture, depth, color, and tone of the material itself and protect it from external influences. I don't exactly remember what base this varnish is on, but if anyone is interested, write in the comments, ask, I will definitely check and reply. At this moment, the wood really starts to shine. Colors, grains, textures, and shades are revealed. The wood becomes more alive and pleasant to the eye. It is very clear here that everything was done correctly and what the final result will be. I apply varnish in 3 stages. First, I apply the first coat and let it dry well. In my case, this takes about 2-3 days. After that, I take sandpaper with a grain of about 400 and lightly sand the surface to remove the fuzz. The wood becomes smooth and pleasant to the touch again. Then, the second stage, the second layer of varnish. After drying, I sand again with sandpaper because if you don't, the wood will be uneven, rough, and still unpleasant to touch. But this way it is smooth and pleasant. When the varnish dries, I apply the third and final coat of varnish. After drying, I move on to the next stage. This is the stage of mounting the picture itself into the frame. For me, this is probably the most pleasant stage of all the work because I am already seeing almost the final result. At this moment, it's nice just to stop, look at the work, and realize that all the time and effort were not in vain. It's pleasant to hold the frame in your hands, examine it, analyze it, and see how everything turned out as a whole. For mounting, I prepared small hinges. I also cut these special tabs or hinges on a laser machine. They can be called in different ways. They are easy to fix. If needed, you can easily open them, remove the picture, or, on the contrary, place the picture and fix it with these same hinges. The construction itself is quite light and reliable. The toolset needed here is minimal: a screwdriver, screws, the hinges themselves, and a little time and desire to finish the job. And now I want to show the final result itself. Three finished pictures. This is how they look when completed: a wooden pine frame in a natural color and the picture itself engraved on a laser machine. I want to be honest, this work took quite a lot of time, but in the end, it turned out quite well. I believe the result is worth it. Everything looks harmonious, calm, and natural. I like this result. I hope you do too. Be sure to leave your opinion in the comments. I will be very happy to read it and answer your questions if they come up while watching this video. Thank you for watching and for joining me in this process. If you are fond of working with wood like this, I will be glad to hear your opinion in the comments. See you in the next video.